Hello there, good morning. It's Aza here. Back with another video. This time, since I finished grinding for my challenges in Battlefield 6 Beta, I think it's probably prime time for me to at least explain about whatever that the game is actually providing, and is it, worth the price at the moment. So far in this test period, even in the second weekend, unfortunately for me, not really there yet. Firstly, right, they released Rush and Breakthrough. Rush game mode is kind of weird because I think there's a lot of content creators or people out there who complain about the placements of the MCOM machines. I think they are placed in some very, very weird places sometimes, and I'm not exactly sure if that's actually very good at all. In comparison to like games that are, previous games, I suppose. Because a lot of those places where they actually place this kind of stuff is actually very weird. Uh, they should maybe, use the data from this second weekend to try to find out which is the most optimal position there is. Um, Other than that, actually, I think Rush is fine if you prefer like close quarters, meat grinder kind of a session with the boys or something. If you have a squad, you are definitely going to perform very well. But the problem with this game mode is more like it's not Battlefield kind of a feel yet. Like, sure, I understand that a lot of people or majority of the player base still prefer infantry based combat and don't really commandeer the vehicles that much. Only certain players will actually dare to actually take up the mantle to drive a tank or use a vehicle or drive a jet or a helicopter, because those are still like very, very high ceilings of skills, and you need to get used to it in order for you to get better on that. But it's actually, I think the reason why this happens is more like because there is not much vehicles that we are able to test at the moment. If you like let's just say if the developers let us to test Firestorm, at least a Firestorm Conquest in either close weapons or open weapons conquest, whatever, right? You just let us play a round or just a lot of rounds of maybe Firestorm, and just let us feel like, is it actually up to snuff? Is this Battlefield up to snuff in comparison to like the older Battlefield 3 maps in comparison? Like, surely we don't really have just like a lot of great immersions on just infantry ground troops gameplay, right? We should have maps that actually can accommodate more than 5 vehicles at the time, right? Because at the moment, nobody drives the Jeep because they know it's a very, very vulnerable vehicle. People are going to be able to, throw grenades at it. They can shoot you through it because the opening, your driver's seat is literally just not protected at all. There is also the possibility of people actually throwing the, thermobaric explosive and stuff like that. There's just so many ways for you to take down a Jeep so easily that a lot of people just ditch it once they reach to their point of interest, and that's it. It's like, but the problem with the Jeep is as well is that I really like the machine gun turret that is on top of the Jeep. It's actually pretty decent. It's just that there's no power for you to even use it properly, surely there is actually going to have a use for this vehicle if there is something like a Humvee, right? I believe if they were to be able to fit in a Humvee in the future, maybe both sides, like in the Pax Armata or on the NATO side of things, maybe it would be a much better vehicle than this open-ended Jeep. I guess it's nobody cares about the Jeep whenever you park it on a good spot, even, because most people just ditch it and then just walk on ground and stuff like that, because it's literally the same as no cover. Unfortunately, this is not the case in like the older Battlefield games, because I think people just somehow just underestimate the whole Jeep as a advantage as a vehicle, actually, because just like how Helldivers 2 have vehicles, at least the Helldivers 2 vehicle is actually armored, so enemy shooting at you with small firearms is not gonna penetrate the vehicle so easily, right? At least there is that. And I think if they actually add in something like a Humvee that can actually protect yourself, then it's definitely much more easier for us to actually use a vehicle to get from point A to point B. For now, nobody cares about the Jeep, so I think it's really, really pointless to have them as a vehicle slot just for the sake of vehicles, you know. Give us bikes, armored bikes, bikes with Gatling guns, I don't know, man, or bikes with rocket launchers that can, destroy airplanes. Maybe something like that. That would be so cool, right? Or just more anti-air emplacements and vehicles, I guess. I think there is definitely more variants of anti-air instead of the ones that we are actually getting at the moment, because yeah, rarely people are going to use those vehicles if they are as thin as a paper, because any tanks that has an autoloader or an autocannon, or just any tanks that is an M1 Abrams, is just gonna one shot any light vehicle at this point. So I think the light vehicle really needs a lot of attention. A lot of people might, just don't care about it because they play infantry. That's the reason why. But for me, I think the vehicles need to be improved. There needs to be more APC like vehicles, especially in the map like Brooklyn, because there's so much more infantry fights in this map, and because of the verticality that you can see with all the buildings, you can traverse up to second, third, and fourth floor even for certain like buildings. So it's very important to have something that is armored and protect you from all sides, because at this point of the time, right, anybody can just snipe you from any location, and there's no way for you to defend against all directions. So I think an APC or a Humvee would be perfect in this like place to actually like try to choke down a position and try to choke down an objective. And unfortunately, they did not even attempt to give us a conquest with vehicles at all in Brooklyn of all places. Like, you showed us in the trailer that there is a helicopter flying that you can shoot it down and then it will cause a huge explosion and stuff, especially in your multiplayer review event. Why not give us something like that? Like, okay, I know maybe a helicopter is a little bit too overpowered in this map, especially because the buildings give so much cover to you. You can fly low, avoid rockets so easily. Maybe that was a balanced decision that they decided to make, but really, a conquest without vehicles is not conquest, man. Especially in this map, I know the verticality makes the gameplay a little bit more variety, has a lot more. Sure, that's pretty fun at times, but I'm starting to get tired of this like meat grind fest, meat grinder kind of a gameplay, because number one, if I want to play a close quartered infantry game, most people would just go to COD, or most people would just play the finals, because it's literally the same thing. Nobody is coming to play Battlefield for the infantry play alone, right? Because people already stated, a lot of content creators already have stated this. The gameplay, the gunplay in Battlefield is not comparable to that of a Call of Duty. Okay, say what you want, right? Call of Duty still have its own, gunplay that has been refined like so many years already. So of course it's pretty hard to compare with that, right? But the thing is, they are focused more on infantry gameplay, kill streaks, and short-term gameplays for the Gen Zs or something. So it's much more like a fast-paced kind of a FPS shooter. I mean, meanwhile, Battlefield is I can see that Battlefield is trying to cater a little bit towards this Call of Duty player base here, because they wanted to get more players. Yes, I understand that, but thing is, you already stated that you wanted to be a Battlefield game. You want to have your own identity. Why are you still like putting all these meat grinding maps like I don't know, Breakthrough, Domination, King of the Hill, stuff like this? It's all the same for me, because it's all just close quarters maps, infantry gameplay, and shotguns is going to be the king. SMGs is going to dominate. It's weird, because now there's not really that much reason for you to use a recon at the moment, unless you are playing in somewhere like Siege of Cairo or the Liberation Pick map. Because other than these two maps, it's really pointless to use the recon. Maybe you can use it in the Empire States a little bit, but it's still going to get it's pretty close quarters still. So people can still shoot you from behind, from the other side, or they can probably they saw your sniper in and they'll just shoot you at your position or just bomb that position or just use RPG that position. It's really pointless for any snipers to go stealth or play stealth and stuff like that, because it's just so hard to play stealthy in this game when everybody is just running around, gunning down everybody, and they just keep moving. So because of this pacing that this modern style of gameplay is now existing in this game, you just cannot really play this game peacefully anymore. Like in the past, where large maps or smaller maps are still able to give you breathing room for the recon snipers to gain intelligence, maybe become an overwatch to like look from the top of a hill to try to spot enemies behind towers so that your allies on the objective can actually take them down or go to their positions and attack them and stuff like that. That is actually a very good role for snipers, especially in terms of like a spec ops class in the future that they're trying to achieve. The problem is like there's no reason for you to use a recon sniper or a DMR when anybody in medium range can just use a machine gun and just laser you down. That's like, what's the point of that then? Okay, sure, a sniper is able to deal more damage. If with just 2 shots, you can probably kill a single person. But what if the whole entire rest of the team is there? How are you gonna deal with them unless you have time to even throw out all of your C4s and detonate them, right? But for the most part, I think the recon class and the recon class is probably the one that requires a little bit of attention here, because DMRs are kind of weird. Like, sure, they are snipers, but if you're not using the one-shot one, like the long-range sniper that every sniper has or every recon has, it's just, you're not gonna net kills for the most part. You're probably gonna hit them and then they'll hide, and then they'll recover the HP, and then they'll try to snipe you back with a one-shot kill. And it's the battle of attrition between snipers sniping back is really, really unfair at the moment if you are using a DMR, unless you're very accurate with it, you know the sweet spots, and you are very good aim. It's just the sniper gleans is just gonna obscure their location of their heads for the most part. So I don't know, it's pretty tough at the moment for recons. I would love to enjoy recon as a spec ops class, because I really like to push towards the objective play and actually like placing spawn beacons very, very close to it, or at somewhere that is actually very, very hidden that the enemy wouldn't expect us to spawn from. And I think that is usually pretty cool when it actually works. But at the moment, unfortunately, I think the rest of the other classes are fine, especially even like engineer, if you ask me, because at least the RPG is your long range options. If you don't really have a sniper on hand, at least you have that. And yeah, I would wish them to add in vehicles for all conquest maps, regardless of what map it is. I know it's just really ridiculous for a tank to be on Empire States, but it definitely will be fun. It's actually going to be much more fun because it would be like Bazaar, right? Like the Grand Bazaar has you can actually like, use a tank in that place because there's roads, there are buildings, but it's still, it still can accommodate a tank in there. Why not in Empire States? Why not there's a helicopter or jets even? Because you can maybe, utilize the anti-air rockets, I guess. At that point, the AT rockets are just not usable in all this like ground infantry maps and alone, right? And it just wastes a space for the engineer class. And I just wish that we can use the sensor. I wish we have more options in terms of like anti-infantry at this point, because so far the only anti-infantry you have is using your gun, and it's not really it's not really there yet as well. I'm not sure if the future of the Battlefield 6 content is gonna be enough for you to variant the whole $70 gameplay. But I think if the portal mode is as good as what they showed us, maybe, just maybe, the player base can actually recreate a lot of those older Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3 maps, or even Battlefield 2 Bad Company maps back in the older days, or even 1942 maps very, very easily, if they have the portal mode for them to, build whatever they want. So I'm not worrying about map design at this point, because if the maps for the official game modes are very, very trash, at least Portal can fix them. But this is like the worst case scenario, and I don't really want, Battlefield to become another one of those, another Battlefield 5 or a 2042 situation where it's kind of if you don't really like it and the majority of players don't really like it because it's a trash game. It's not that. I think the foundation is there. The great gameplay, the immersiveness, and the new revive mechanic is so good that I don't really want to drop this game. And the fact that I'm actually able to endure through all the challenges and complete them, even, especially when queuing for breakthrough and rush, is so hard to get to the exactor site, by the way. If you really want to complete them, you better just queue using the custom search, because yeah, you're gonna take a long time to queue for those slots, especially. Okay, so Battlefield 6, is it worth your time? I'll say yes. Only if you don't pre-order, because unfortunately, if you were to get one of those pre-order skins, you are going to be targeted in the battlefield. People are going to purposely shoot you down or prioritize to kill you because you pre-ordered. And I think that is gonna be really, really obviously going to happen, because red color, you have red color on your torso, you have red color on your helmet. It's literally a marker for enemies to hit there. So it's a disadvantage. At least the challenges, the skins that they provide in the challenges is actually usable. It is still a decent camo color, so I don't really think there is any issue with that. But I just hope that in the future, if they were to release like a lot more like customizations in terms of like looks, I hope they don't really put in like more colors and stuff like this, because it's going to make you much more easier to be spotted in comparison to the normal uniform that we have at the moment as Pax Armata or the NATO side. So there is also that, Other than that, if your computer is able to support secure boot, I think it's a worthwhile game to play. I think the best thing about this game is that even 6GB VRAM GPUs can actually play this game, and that's crazy. For the longest time, I always thought, GPUs need to have 8GB of VRAM, or at least 10GB or 12GB of VRAM, because of how high the graphics are, right? If you look at Battlefield 6, right, it looks like a high-end AAA game, but because they are using a Frostbite engine, it's not exactly the Unreal Engine, the performance is way better, especially if they have also developed the game since like early January as well, because they have the whole Battlefield Labs thing. I hope the developers actually listen to our feedback and try to make and steer Battlefield 6 into the direction of Battlefield instead of Call of Duty or the Finals or other, FPS games, because I'm tired of the same corridor shooter. I want a Battlefield. I want a massive combined arms, all-out warfare games. All right, I don't really want like close quarters infantry modes, or try to capture a point, or for the scoring, or for objectives, or for MCOMs, and like, I mean, that is cool and all for a while, but I would still love to ride tanks with my friends and just go ham at the enemy as well. And I would love to see more tank versus tank battles in the open zones like in the past Battlefield maps. I think those are the ones that will cause a lot of Battlefield only moments instead of like all the infantry related gameplay. So yeah, that is that. That is my feedback, honest feedback of Battlefield 6. Is it good enough for me to buy it? No, fortunately not. I'm going to see how the developers are going to change their gameplay at the moment. And I believe if they are still going to have Battlefield Labs around, I might try to check out if I can sign up for it or anything like that. But other than that, I think it's worthwhile. If you are able to unlock all the challenges, good for you. But just make sure to not pre-order, because I don't really think those skins are worth it. Yeah, and that's it. And that's my whole honest review on Battlefield 6 Beta. I hope you guys have actually enjoyed the video, and please leave a like and subscribe if you like my video. Thank you very much. Sayonara.